I am Benjamin Akako. This is Joy News Desk. Coming up this hour, University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, threatens to embark on strike following what they say is government's failure to reach an agreement with them. We'll get you more from their members. Also, contractors of the Pikwasi Interchange urge the public to be on the lookout for a syndicate engaged in the stealing of streetlights and other road construction materials. We'll bring you more as they have stolen crash barriers valued at $3,500 at the newly commissioned Pikwasi Interchange. And residents of Akode in the eastern region blame increasing cases of crime in the area on poor mobile telephony network connection to the community. We'll bring you details of all of these. We also have business and sports coming your way in this hour. Do stay. Let's start off with residents of Akode, a rural community near Edukrum in the Okere district of the eastern region, who say they are living in fear following increasing cases of crime and their inability to access mobile telephony networks and internet connectivity in the area. They say the police have been unsuccessful in foiling robbery cases, most especially because victims and residents are unable to solicit their assistance on time anytime there are attacks. They want government to intervene in the provision of internet and expand mobile telecommunication networks to help check crime and boost healthcare delivery. Edwin Kofisian reports.
The stretch between Edukrum and Akode has recorded a number of robbery cases, including the killing of an ambulance driver. The 44-year-old senior emergency technician, Abraham Tete, was shot by highway robbers while transporting a woman in labor from Somenya to Koforidua sometime in February this year. Some residents and robbery victims claim after the incident that all their efforts to contact the police to foil the attack proved futile due to poor mobile network connectivity. The absence of these essential services does not only affect the security of the people, but healthcare delivery in the district.
Something is happening to you somewhere, you wouldn't get access to the internet or the network to call someone to help you. So by the time you realize whatever is supposed to happen to you has happened already.
There is a bungalow attached to the school, and teachers who are living here, we live in fear. When we heard that news, although it wasn't a new to us because it has been happening on this road, so most of the times we live in fear and panic. Yes, and there is no network. So when even robbers come to attack you in the school, especially in the bungalow, when you shout, the school is not close to the community. You can't make a call because of network challenge.
The internet connection here was very bad. Even trying to reach someone, placing a call, trying to make a research becomes a problem. So you have to sometimes move all the way from here to either Somanya or Edukrum to access internet.
A USAID statistics estimate that more than 4 billion people in developing countries, including Ghana, still do not have access to the internet. Women are, on the average, 14% less likely to own mobile phones than their male counterparts and 43% less likely to engage online. The rapid development and adoption of digital technology is transforming how people worldwide access information, goods, and services. But in Akode, the story is different. Residents struggle to make calls and connect to the internet. Due to this, the Hunger Project has partnered Blue Town Telecommunications, USAID, and GIFEC to increase young women's economic opportunities by providing meaningful internet connectivity. Samuel Afrane is the country director for the Hunger Project.
Even though this project is meant to bridge the gender gap in digital access, but it is also meant to bridge this digital access as far as urban and rural places are concerned, because we know that internet connectivity in the rural areas lag behind that of the urban centers.
Stephanie Ashley, project manager for the Women's Meaningful Access Project, explained that Whilst residents access information, the provision of computers and internet will also boost the learning of ICT for students.
And for this ICT center, we have available micro operators who will be training the community partners in internet usage and also advocating for people to bring their children just to be computer literate.
Now, from poor network connectivity, let's talk about the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, which says it will embark on a strike following what they say is government's failure to reach an agreement with them. Now, last month, UTAG was in a mandatory 30-day negotiation over its demand for $2,084 for entry-level lecturers. But the association had indicated that despite backing down on some of their demands and government pledging its commitment, nothing tangible has been achieved yet. Here are excerpts of a memo cited by Joy News that they sent to their members indicating the threat of strike action. Let's take a look at that. It is titled, well, Resumption of the Suspension of Teaching and Related Activities on All Campuses. And it says, our circular dated the 20th of August 2021 with reference number UTAG /NAT/2021 UP03 and the third update on the suspension of the withdrawal of teaching and related activities dated the 22nd of September 2021 refers. Now, following the signing of the memorandum of agreement with the employer to complete the negotiations on the conditions of service of university teachers within 1 month by resolving all outstanding issues, which formed the basis for suspending the strike action, it is sad to report that the 1 month moratorium has elapsed and the negotiation has almost reached a stalemate. Unfortunately, within the 1 month moratorium, the employer never shifted its position, even though UTAG made a number of concessions. For this reason, the National Executive Committee of UTAG, at its meeting held on the 1st of October 2021, resolved that if the employer's position remains unchanged by Friday, the 8th of October 2021, which is this Friday, members should resume the suspension of teaching and related activities until further notice. All members are hereby directed to observe this directive and act accordingly. Thank you now or never. And it's signed by Professor Solomon Nunu, National President, as well as the National Secretary, Dr. Asare Asante Ano. And so that is that statement. We're joined over the phone lines now by the Secretary, Professor Nunu, who actually is the president. Now, we've seen that statement and the 1 month negotiation period. Now, for the purposes of clarity, Prof, what was the position of the employer in the first place? Are you willing to make any concessions of your own, given that the employer is reluctant to shift its position?
For any concessions we would make will be, the only caveat would be the employer shifting its position. Because with the employer being at the same point, then they are trying to say it's either take it or leave it. So we are of the firm belief that once the employer shifts and we say that now they are at the table and ready to bargain with good faith, then it becomes easier for you to work with us. But without that, it's impossible for us to make any concessions at this point.
You say the employer has done nothing in that respect in the 1 month period, and you speak about good faith. Is that to say that your employer has been acting in bad faith up to this point?
Yes, that's the position of UTAG. We believe the employer has acted in bad faith throughout that period, and that is the position and improve on their offer. Because without doing that, then it means we have reached, and everything makes it possible for us to then go on a strike action. We have indicated.
Right. Now you've given Friday the 8th as a deadline, and if no agreement is reached by then, you're going to strike. Are you optimistic there's going to be any action before then, Prof?
As we speak, I'm on my way to Accra. They've invited us for a meeting. So all over the country, UTAG executives, the leaders who are members of the negotiation team, are on their way coming to the table for us to talk. So I'm of the firm belief that if they shift position, I don't think they're not ready to talk. But if they shift position and they bring out something that is reasonable and good enough, then it will be good for us to make progress. Remember, the statement mainly focused on them shifting position. And once they shift position and it's reasonable for us, then definitely everything will come.
Apart from the monetary considerations, you say if they shift position, what more could you be looking for that would likely be on the discussion table on Friday or before Friday?
Yes, this afternoon we expect them to talk about the labor market survey as well, which has also been on the table. And then, depending on how it goes, if everything goes positively, then in that case, they would have to sign an MOA to that effect. But if nothing goes well, then in that case, I believe both parties will come to a consensus that indeed we have reached a stalemate, and we need to take whatever actions either parties will be interested in taking.
Prof, thank you for engaging us this morning. That is Professor Solomon Anunu, who is president of UTAG. Now, from there, we go to Parliament, where the minority has criticized the ongoing nationwide SIM re-registration by the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization, describing the use of the Ghana card as discriminatory and unlawful. Addressing a press conference Tuesday, Ranking Member on Parliament's Communication Committee, Sam Nate George, urged the ministry to withdraw threats to deactivate unregistered SIM cards by March 2022. Now, the minority is therefore calling for an immediate revision of the process to make it easy and accessible to all Ghanaians. Pikwasi Shandov's report now.
On Friday, October 1st, 2021, the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization began a nationwide SIM registration to sanitize the digital ecosystem and minimize the rate of fraud-related activities involving the use of SIM cards. In this exercise, SIM card users across the country have to link it to their Ghana card. Now, the minority in Parliament, however, believes insisting on the Ghana card as the only national ID for the exercise is discriminatory. Addressing the media, Ranking Member on Parliament's Communications Committee, Sam Nate George, described it as an affront to LI 2111 and other relevant legislation governing SIM registration in Ghana.
We strongly oppose any abuse of policy to unnecessarily inconvenience the citizens of this country. We find it most inappropriate that the policy directive is issuing a fiat of deactivating SIM cards that are not linked to a Ghana card within the next 6 months. We find this most unacceptable. This, we believe, is a retrospective application of legislation and a tunnel vision approach to sanitizing the industry. And why we say this is a retrospective approach to legislation is, do not forget that Ghanaians registered, almost every Ghanaian today holds a card that was registered in 2011 or since 2011. And they were registered in accordance with law. So if you are now applying LI 2111 retrospectively to affect those people, we believe that that is not the dictates of the law in our country.
Member of Parliament for Sagnirigu constituency, Alhaji ABA Fuseni, also decried the process and urged the Communications Ministry to revise its decision. In his view, the use of the Ghana card will needlessly inconvenience a lot of Ghanaians, especially those in rural areas.
There are no offices of the National Identification Authority in districts, even these are districts, for them to be able to afford Ghanaians the opportunity to register. So these are districts. What about even the rural areas, which are the overwhelming majority of settlements in our country today? So you see clearly that the infrastructure in the districts and in the rural areas to register our people for this Ghana card is simply not there.
Member of Parliament for the Bumprungu constituency, Ahmed Bandim, also lamented that over the past few years, the National Identification Authority has been consistently insensitive to Ghanaians in the implementation of its policies.
The voter ID card is legitimate if it is legitimate enough to be used to elect a president and a member of parliament. Of course, it should be legitimate to be used for a registration of a SIM card in the country. I come from a rural constituency, in the Bumprungu constituency. We have villages, majority of whom don't have the NIA card. And now we are being told that they should be charged 200 Ghana cedis before they can obtain the card. We think it's outrageous. We think that the government has a motive, and NCA I believe, should be concentrating on improving quality of service in the rural areas and even in the cities than interested in registering SIM cards.
The minority is therefore urging the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization to withdraw the threat of deactivation of valid SIM cards by March 2022. It also called for the scrapping of the physical visit to an agent of a service provider for authentication of registration documents.
So we offer the following 4 solutions to make the ongoing process more holistic and more effective in fighting SIM-based digital crime. 1, the immediate withdrawal of the threat of deactivation of valid SIM cards by March 2022 by the Minister for Communications and Digitalization. 2, the scrapping of the physical visit to an agent of a service provider for authentication of the registration document. And I'll come back to explain this particular point.
To make the process more convenient, the minority called for an integrated referencing of database of the Passport Office, DVLA, NIA, and SNIT by the National Identification Authority. Lastly, the minority argued that passports, driver's license, and voters' ID cards should be incorporated into the process to enhance mass participation by all Ghanaians. Pikwasi Interchange's report for Joe News.
Now, coming up, the Minister for National Security, Kandapa, is calling on civil society organizations to hold government institutions, especially his ministry, to account for their actions. Speaking at a workshop with CSOs on the National Security Strategy document, he explained government could work effectively if the CSOs played their part.
It is also recognized that these accountability institutions set up by the Constitution, set up by the laws, which we refer to as the horizontal accountability institutions, most of them basically lack what it takes to hold the government to account, and that is independence. If you want to hold the government to account, what you really need is independence. Which is why my wife cannot audit me, because she hasn't got that independence. If she writes a bad report, it will reflect in the top money. So she, of course, will naturally advise herself. So this is also a challenge, even in the advanced countries. And what has been the solution? The solution has been to find either accountability institutions that will not have that problem of lack of pure independence. And in these countries, they rely on the media. But much more than that, they rely on civil society. Because civil society, by definition, are normally independent. Because civil society, by definition, normally have people who are really experts in the areas that they talk about. So, colleagues, that is how important civil society is going forward. If governance is going to be good, it will depend upon the extent to which civil society will play that role of holding governments to account.
Well, the National Security Strategy document, which was launched by the President on the 7th of June 2021, was meant to ensure effectiveness of the security and intelligence sector by revamping current systems and structures. But security analyst Adam Bona, in an interview with Joy News, explained that the policy document does not explicitly have a plan for the gathering of data of unregistered security arms. He believes if the ministry is furnished with that data of unregistered small arms in the country, it will actually be able to track down users and deal with crime.
In terms of the policy document, I think one area has to do with baseline survey. You realize about 9.5 out of 10 violent crimes that are going on in this country are by the use of illicit firearm. So the policy document, even though a very good document, I think we need to relook at the issue of small arms and light weapons. As we speak, we don't have the most current statistics or data with regards to how many firearms are in the hands of people that are not registered, that are not known. And once we don't know that,
it becomes difficult to deal with violent crimes. So I want to see a situation where probably a survey is conducted to know what is the size of the challenge we are dealing with. If you want to build a house, you just don't get up and build a house, isn't it? You want to know possibly the size of your family before you build a house. So, and then the second thing has to do with funding source for the strategy. If you come up with a strategy that doesn't have a funding source, then there's a challenge. Even though it's a very good strategy, I want to see how do we finance the strategy. That has not been raised. And then also, I think we have a big challenge when it comes to state security officers, some of them brutalizing citizens, and citizens don't know where to go to, because if a police officer was to beat you, you still go to the police station to report. What are the probability that you would get a fair hearing from the police? We don't know.
The executive director of Star Ghana, Ibrahim Tanko Amidu, however, says the national security strategy provides an avenue for CSOs to hold government to account.
Over the years, civil society organizations have been involved in peace, security and development at various levels, at the community levels, at the district levels, etc. But these have been isolated instances. So CSO A is working in Bole, CSO B is working in maybe Alavanyo, There is no overarching framework that enables us to coordinate and collaborate. And so we see the strategy as a framework that promotes the collaboration, that promotes the working together, that enables us to avoid duplication. The third issue is the fact that there needs to be a way of holding government accountable. As the minister said, government is responsible for the delivery of public goods and services, for creating the environment to enable us enjoy our rights. But where are we going to? Where is a document that says that this is what government would do, A, B, C, D, E, F, in order to promote that enabling environment? And we think that the national security strategy provides the tool that we can use to hold government accountable.
Let's shift our attention now to the Pikwasi Interchange, where suspected thieves disguised as construction workers have stolen crash barriers valued at $3,500 at the newly commissioned interchange. Now, resident engineer Kwabena Buampong revealed the criminals have also started tampering with the street lights at the interchange in order to steal them. Maxwell Agbagba has more in this report.
Pikwasi Interchange was commissioned by President Akufo-Addo sometime in July this year. Well, many of the residents here were excited when it was commissioned because it reduced the travel time and reduced the traffic congestion, usually in this part of town. Residents who've been speaking to witnessed how the unscrupulous persons stole the crash barriers.
We encountered some people, about 5 people with a truck. And they were working on it. We thought they were working on it. It was at dawn, around 5:30. When we were coming from the church. Yeah. So when we met them, we didn't ask them anything because we thought they were part of the contractors that are working or engineers that are working on the road. So we passed by, but as soon as we got to the entrance of our gate, we saw them moving the car, that means leaving. But we realized that they have removed the thing from that end, where the last metallic pillar is, to the last end there, where they have, fixed the new ones. So they moved. We were here 3 days later. I saw some of the workers in the afternoon walking around, and now that you have helped us with it, you have come back to remove it. And the guy told me they were not the people who came to remove it, but it was rather strange people who came in to steal. And I was surprised because the way they did the thing, you will not suspect them of stealing. And they did it professionally, because the dressing and the way they were walking will not make you suspect anything.
Yeah, we heard they were wearing reflectors.
Yeah, they were wearing reflectors. Reflectors, and some of them were wearing overall. like workers.
Resident engineer of the Pikwasi Interchange, Engineer Kwabena Buampon, says the crash barriers that were stolen are valued at a total cost of $3,500. He says they've already picked up signals that some unscrupulous persons want to steal some street lights on the interchange too.
We observed that about 10 sections of our crash barrier had been stolen or removed by unauthorized or unknown persons, and this is about 40-meter length. And we then proceeded to report to the police, after some time. And you asked about the costs. Presently, it's about $3,500. There is an operation or modus operandi of those who steal these streetlights, and what they do is that they start by tampering with the connections, and that virtually plunges the whole system, or the whole road into darkness. And then sometimes they come under the cover of darkness to remove the luminaires, or you can see them in broad daylight removing these, luminaires. And we have seen some signs which presupposes that there are plans to do that, and that is why, we have come public. But
So you've seen signs that some people want to steal the streetlight?
Exactly so. Because we've seen, the covers opened, and in some cases the switches have been turned off, and this, has alerted us to the operations of this syndicate who have done similar things on other roads. The Gifford Road. They have been to the that is the N1 on the N1 itself, which is part of the motorway from Tema to Accra. So once we say this, we want to caution the public to be on the lookout.
Yeah. We understand sometimes they even wear reflectors, so you think they are workers.
Yeah, exactly so. You see them in reflectors, and even for the street light, they come with the. Let me explain. You see them in that conveyor that takes them up, okay, and they will be removing the street lights. Yes, so you might think that they work for the contractor, but these people sometimes do not work for the contractor.
Finally, what do you think can be done about this situation?
Well, I think that I have said elsewhere that policing is a shared responsibility. If any of us see people who look suspicious, there's a need for us to ask questions. I think that where we always think that, these people, or we assume that these people are working for the contractor or for the road ministry, I think that we should begin to question people. If they have ID cards, we want to see them. If we want to take pictures, and look, I have done that. Okay, I have done that on projects where I see somebody, I ask you, where are you coming from? He says, this man says I should do. I say, okay, if this man says I want to take a picture of you, and then they become jittery. Once they become jittery, then that should tell you that these people have not been mandated or sanctioned to do whatever they are doing, and they could be thieves. There are these scrap dealers who go around stealing manhole covers. You put a manhole which is supposed to protect, both pedestrians and motorists, and then they go stealing them. So this is something that I would want the public to be on the lookout. And of course, our enforcement agencies, the police, and all who are involved in security, the national security, should be on the lookout for such people.
A worrisome development indeed. But here at Joy News, we've been asking the question, what has become of the Ghanaian, and why will people stoop so low? Chief Policy Analyst at GIPO, Dr. Charles Reku-Brobe, Chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education, Josephine Nkrumah, and former Commissioner of Shraj, Emil Short, all of whom featured on the AM show this morning, blamed the phenomenon on the current individualistic nature of the Ghanaian.
I think these things have been with us from time immemorial. The question is the frequency with which we see it now, and actually the apathy with which we are treating this. So yes, we do see all of these things and they go unchecked. But previously, you would see this, but as we had more of a sense of a communal spirit, And people thought that what we owned was collective. And to that extent, when somebody sought to destroy something that was seen as communal, communities or persons in the community would rise against you. We are increasingly seeing a more selfish and individualistic society, and largely what I do is my business, and to that extent is no one else's business. And what somebody else does is his or her business, and to that extent is not my business. And so we see a lot of these things. Some of us would rant and rave, but taking that step to correct it has largely gone undone. I think it's also a question of institutions and what role they play in ensuring that these are not done. So institutions that are not being properly resourced and are unable to perform their mandates. So for instance, you'd see this, as we see this street light bent towards the road. You may very well find that a citizen may have reported it, but has the district assembly taken steps to correct it, to repair it? These are some of the questions we should also be asking. I think when we're talking about this, what comes to the fore for me as a civic educator is our rights and responsibilities as citizens. And if you read Article 41 of the Constitution on the duties of a citizen, one cardinal duty of a citizen is to combat the misuse of government of state property and to protect state property. To what extent do we understand what is state property? And even if we do, we see this kind of misuse or destruction of state property at this level, at the common man's level. But what about misuse and plundering of state resources, state assets, and the public purse, even at a higher level? So it's actually a transcendence of a trait that pervades our society from the top all the way down to the bottom. And it takes a question of revisiting our values as a country to try and unravel some of these things and find some solutions to it. And I have said in the past that it does not matter the amount of investment we put in infrastructural development until we understand that perhaps our greatest investment should go in the human development and social development of our people, of our mindset. Then, like you saw, we will build beautiful roads, put all the street lights, but they will get destroyed. We would build beautiful gutters and we would throw rubbish in it and it will block out drains. And sadly, we'll just see money literally going down the drain. So to my mind, we need to reset our priorities as a nation and begin to intentionally direct investment resources to institutions and the citizen in terms of our mindset transformation and development.
There's no proactivity. The councils are not taking steps to inform the public. You know, I heard David say they should get to know. How do they get to know if they are not informed? I'll tell you, Israel, the few times I've corresponded with my council, the one thing that I noticed on their letterhead is that there isn't even a telephone number to call anybody to follow up. You know, deliberately they don't put phone numbers on their things. And so I think, you know, we need to, first of all, make sure that the councils have the capacity. I mean, we have decimated so many councils into little units, which I don't think really are effective. You know, if you see a problem in Accra, where do you talk to AMA and where do you talk to Ayawasu and where do you talk to somebody else? So there needs to be knowledge about how to be a good citizen, provided by both the councils and the Electricity Corporation, which has got responsibility, the police, the security system, etc. If that is provided and then people don't respond, then you can say we have irresponsible citizens. But until you get them properly informed on how to act, I'm sorry, you can't blame the citizens. I think the basic problem here is organized theft, and I think we should see it as that. I think the petty things of people removing, let's say, nameplates or house plates from outside houses, that I think is a problem of one of the hardships that we're having to deal with, because people are finding it difficult to make ends meet. I think there's a place for good upbringing at home, but there's also a place for letting the citizen know what their responsibilities and their rights and obligations are.
Josephine Nkrumah and Dr. Riku Brobe sharing their thoughts there. But coming up next on Joy News Desk, we bring you business. Stay. Welcome back. Well, right before business, the opposition National Democratic Congress has given its verdict on the Justice Kumsin Committee report on the Ejura disturbances. The party says the report is nothing short of injustice and an attempt to shield perpetrators in what they describe as state-sponsored killings. At a news conference at the party's headquarters, Communications Officer Sami Jimfi accused the three-member committee of concealing the truth and deliberately working to delink the late Ibrahim Mohammed Elias Kaka from the Fix the Country campaign.
We in the NDC are appalled by the very labored, albeit unsuccessful attempt by the committee to shield the perpetrators of that heinous crime from liability and punishment. That finding flies in the face of the facts and cannot be accepted by the Ghanaian people, who expected nothing short of the truth from any impartial inquiry, wet as salt into the sad events that unfolded in Ejura. We wish to make the point forcefully, ladies and gentlemen, that no credible or verified evidence of any feud in Kaka's family was adduced by any of the witnesses who appeared before the committee to testify, because there is none. One therefore wonders how the committee came to this contrived conclusion. Our checks as a party reveal that Kaka was at peace with his brother Idi and lived in harmony with him. This was duly corroborated by his wife, Sahada Hudu, mother, and family relatives of Kaka, as well as the people who lived with him or with them in one community. The idea that Kaka was killed as a result of a family feud is therefore the invention of the Kumsin Committee, and as such cannot be allowed to stand. We wish to submit forcefully that all persons who perjured themselves before the committee should be interdicted and prosecuted in accordance with law. In conclusion, friends from the media, we are pretty sure that at this juncture, you, who are objective observers, would agree with our assertion that anything but justice has been said in this Ejura matter as far as the findings of the Justice George Kingsley Kumsin-led committee are concerned. This grand agenda to once again cover up, obfuscate, and try to normalize an issue of such magnitude and importance only speaks to what has been a consistent trend since President Akufo-Addo assumes the reins of power. Indeed, the starred events of Ayawaso West Wogon, brutalities, are still fresh in our minds.
Well, we settle for some business news right after the break. Stay.
Good morning, welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Traders at the KGTR market in Kumasi are in a standoff with management of the facility over payment of electricity bills. Some traders whose stalls were locked up over non-payment retaliated by blocking staff of the market administration from entering their offices. Mona Lisa Frimpong was there and our reports.
So traders at the KGTR market this morning are expressing their displeasure over what they say is the unfair treatment being meted out by management of the city market.
Management of the new KGTR market locked up shops of traders owing electricity bills Tuesday dawn. The affected traders besieged the administration premises and locked out staff of the city market company. Many of the traders complain of high electricity charges, hence their inability to pay. Though some have not been operating in their shops, they are forced to pay bills.
I can't even sell up to 1,000 cedis a day because business is not going well for us.
The new KGTR market operates a centralized electricity meter. After several appeals to the Electricity Company of Ghana, the city market management is yet to succeed in providing separate meters for each stall. Leadership of the traders have therefore instructed non-payment of electricity bills until the challenge is addressed. Eric Nanaprempe is chairman of the KGTR Traders Association.
It is the leadership of the various traders associations who instructed our members that henceforth we aren't going to pay any bills to the management unless the management gives the approval for every trader to secure his or individual meter for our shops.
The market management, however, locked up shops owing the bills. The traders in protest locked up the administration block of the KGTR market. Managing Director of the market, Edmond Kofi Dufour Ade, and some workers were driven away from their offices by the traders. Leaders of the Traders Union have threatened not to open up till their shops are opened by the market authorities. They claim the authorities have no power to lock their shops.
The management has no audacity, the management have no authority to close any shop. ECG have not disconnected our light. So why is it that the management is locking the shops? Meanwhile, we don't owe the management. We owe ECG. So if ECG feels that the traders in KGTR here are not paying their light bills, they should disconnect the power to KGTR.
Some traders are worried the situation will affect their trade.
We are facing a lot of problems because there are several markets in Kumasi, and so buyers can visit different markets when they want. My customers are seated there waiting for the shop to be opened. I sell food which might get spoiled. They have disappointed us. They cannot do this to an Accra woman. Even Kojo Bonsu did better than you.
In other news, Integrated Air Services Ghana, operator of IAS FedEx, has launched a new office complex at Kaswa in an attempt to satisfy customers within that area. As part of measures being rolled out by the company to stay closer and ensure easy access to its customers nationwide, Operations and Technical Director of FedEx, Zakaria Abdallah, says this move will ensure maximum service delivery to its patrons. More in this report.
Courier services have evolved in recent times to become a swift avenue for delivering and receiving items in the comfort of our homes. Even though fast and convenient, long-distance charges are a challenge patrons face. Integrated Air Services Ghana, operator of IAS FedEx, says as a means to satisfy customers nationwide, The brand has opened one of its branches at Kaswa, a move it says will allow access to customers within Kaswa and its environs. Operations and Technical Director of FedEx, Zakaria Abdallah, acknowledged the fact that one major challenge courier services face is access to seamless networks, which impedes the smooth operations of the delivery industry. He calls on customers to make room for some of these happenings as the industry works to address them.
Unfortunately, we find ourselves in an unforgiving business industry, courier. Nobody wants to give any courier company the chance of making just the least mistake. We are rendering services, but naturally you all know that you can't get it perfect every time and all of the time. And so I want to appeal to clients, potential clients, that you would just need to give us some little time to go through processes and rectify the problems.
Assistant General Manager of FedEx, Abigail Anane, told Joy Business the brand is working assiduously to tap into the huge market of courier service in Ghana. She admits a lot can be achieved with delivery service in Ghana.
We have so much untapped market for the courier industry. As we are aware, even normal motorbike riders have turned themselves into courier delivery services, which they are not even regulated. So the market is very huge. There is so much untapped market because people would want to sit at the comfort of their homes and offices and have their goods delivered directly to them. So I think the markets, the people are ready for this industry. For us, we think we have to grow bigger and bigger to meet to the increasing demand of the courier industry in Ghana.
And that's business. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Up next, sports.
Time now for sports on Joy News Desk. Oreku Ampafo is here to see us through. Oreku, thanks for joining.
Thank you too.
You're looking dapper.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I know Milovan Rajevac, first training done and dusted. What's the latest?
Well, there have been some number of comments, and I think the one that has attracted the most attention has to be the one of Milovan Rajevac with Jordan Ayew.
Right.
And in that picture, you could see him. You know, it was almost, he was mid-range with his kick and he was tossing the ball. So you can assume he was showing Jordan how to score, maybe most likely a volley or something of a sort. But you could see it was something to do with goal scoring.
Right.
And so, yeah, that picture has been all over social media with people reading meanings.
Milo teaches Jordan.
Yes. I remember Jordan himself hasn't scored a goal for Crystal Palace in almost a year. And
it's been quite a while. And yeah. Imagine, I mean, from the last time we saw him score that spectacular goal that was one of the contenders, and then all of a sudden, it's just been a drought.
Yeah, I think he's been moved to the wing. So it's a case of being played maybe out of position, or maybe that's where he enjoys. But we'll see what Milo requires of him on Saturday when we face Zimbabwe. But if we have time, I think we can listen to what Milo said in his first words to his players, where he was telling them to be proud and to be happy to play for the Black Stars.
No, it's good.
Dajte sve od sebe, budite ponosni što igrate za Ganu.
Be proud to be part of this setup. Be proud because you're representing your country.
Da zajedno, znači probamo, zajedno da probamo.
The only way we can do this is to do this together.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Trening danas.
Training for today.
Dogovorio sam se već sa mojim saradnicima.
Assistants are already familiar with the schedule.
Odradit ćemo jedan deo treninga da se oporavimo posle puta.
First part of the training would be recovery because you were all traveled, so we will do 6 times 300 meters.
Ići ću ja sa vama i
Coach and Romeo, they will lead you.
Ja sam najbrži, nemojte se tako.
Coach is the fastest, so don't compete with coach.
Znači ja sam prvi,
He's the
vi
first.
ste u liniji.
You are sticking to this line.
To vam kažem zato da lagano,
so
fino, da
se... easy.
I imamo 300 metara fino i zadnjih 50 metara
last
izvučemo
50
malo
meters,
da dignemo malo puls.
Just to improve our pulse just a little bit faster.
Interesting. Otoado in the mix there. He came down, made it for that session.
Yeah, and as we reported, he will still be, a lot of people have been asking, he's still Dortmund assistant coach.
Oh, yeah.
So he will be working as part-time, and it will be on a work and pay basis. So when he comes down to work, that's when he will be paid. But I think that's a solid technical lineup, and more of empowering the boys. We just heard from Coach Milovan. It's a case of, these boys have the ability. It's just a case of them believing in themselves and really showing the potential that they do have.
And that's what Milovan Rajevac was saying there. Believe in yourselves and be proud of your team, your jersey. Well, thank you very much, Uri Kwampo, for coming through with sports. That's how we draw the curtains on Joy News Desk. My name is Benjamin Akakwo. It's been a pleasure coming your way. Now, you can check out more stories from myjoyonline.com. Just visit the website. Some of the stories there. NPP supporters in Dwabosu besiege assembly members to demand their money after failing to confirm nominee. Check out that and more stories on myjoyonline.com. Thank you for staying.